Welcome to the Courage to Be podcast with Tania Vasallo. Before we get into this episode, I want to share with you that I'm on a mission to close the gender gap in the podcasting world so that more and more women's voices are heard. If you feel that this is something you value too, then please rate, review, and share the podcast. And in exchange, and as my way to say thank you to you, I want to give you free access to my signature course called Manifesting Abundance, which typically sells for $997. All you have to do to gain access is leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, take a snapshot of it, and send it to help.thecouragetobe@gmail.com, and we'll get you set up with access to the course. Welcome back to the Courage to Be, where we have powerful conversations to transform your life and your business. And today we have Jenni Schulz with us. Welcome, Jenni.
Thanks, Tania. I'm so excited to be here.
I know there's so many things that I want to ask you, having the Manifestation and Money podcast, like we have a lot of topics that overlap. And one of the things that has always stood out for me in your story is throwing yourself a retirement party at age 34. I really want to dive into this. So tell us about who you are, what's your business, and then let's go into how did you get to throw yourself a retirement party at age 34?
Yeah, I know. It sounds fun to say, even from my perspective, but it's just something that I've done. Yeah, I am the host of the Manifestation and Money podcast now because I use manifestation throughout my life all the time now. And I find the money piece is often what gets us hung up. We're so focused on we have to make the money and our lifestyle comes after. Then we fit in the pieces of the lifestyle we want. And that used to be me. I am a former people pleaser. I went to school, I got good grades. Then I went out and I got a job with a pension and I was just supposed to ride it out until retirement, right? And I absolutely hated that. That was in my early 20s. I'm like, there's no way that I can sign myself up to do this for another 30, 40 years when showing up at work every day. It felt soul sucking. It felt like it was just stifling me and who I was. And so that's where I started diving into self-development and started diving into looking at what are the other pieces that I can be doing something. So that is where, and we can chat deeper into it, where I started I read 2 books in there, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and a Jack Canfield book, The Success Principles. And those were kind of 2 sparks that pivoted me into this entire world of seeing what was possible instead of this mold of what society had told me to do. So now that's what I do. I feel like I just hand out permission slips now for people to go all in on finding that lifestyle, deciding that lifestyle that they truly want to have, and then taking the action to go after it.
So what things that you discovered with Jack Canfield and Rich Dad, Poor Dad? And it's funny that you're mentioning this. I interviewed Doria Cordova, who is the founder of Money and You. Have you done that course,
No.
Jenni?
No.
Oh, you have to first go listen to that podcast.
Okay.
And that podcast episode, I'll look it up and see. It was done in December. Dame Doria Cordova, 110 is the episode. So if you happen to listen and you haven't listened to Dame Doria's podcast interview, please go and listen to that one, because both Jack Canfield and Robert Kiyosaki were both of her students from the course Money and You. She's been doing that course since the 70s, and I just did it in January. And because you're in the world of money and manifestation, you will love that course if you can get yourself there in June. It is fabulous. But I want to hear more what sparked for you with Jack Canfield and with Robert Kiyosaki, because I've followed both of them for many years.
Yeah, so it started, and it's funny how when you start to ask the world, or at least start to come into that resistance point of, okay, I know I don't want this, and just start opening up to the possibilities that are out there. These 2 books were both gifted to me from people that are like, hey, they just knew. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I have made this choice in my life and I no longer want to do it. So 2 different people each said, here, read this book and read this book. So I had the 2 books presented to me. And in the Jack Canfield book, it was just exploring well, first of all, right out of the gate, it's your event plus your response equals your outcome. So for me, going to that job every day, I was giving myself that same outcome of I feel miserable and exhausted at the end of every day because my energy, I was doing work that wasn't fulfilling. So it was almost just draining my tank every day. So then I would just want to go home and binge watch Netflix or something. Like it was a very unfulfilling life that was leading out. So I realized that my response by showing up at this job every day was equaling that. And therefore I had to change my response. And looking into another job, it just didn't feel right to me because I knew I was going to be signing up for somebody else's schedule, somebody else's wage that they were setting, having to ask permission for time off, trading 5 days a week to get my 2 days off. And I was like, that doesn't feel good either. So that's where the Rich Dad Poor book came in because they were talking about real estate. And that led me down a little spark of house hacking there. And then at the same time, I can't step over the fact that in that Jack Canfield book, I was going along doing the exercise in the book, and there was one exercise of what do you want to be, do, and have. And I did that exercise, tucked it inside the book, filed this book away on my bookshelf as I was reading into the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. And then a year later, we were packing up to move, and this list fell out of the book. And every single thing I had put on that list had come true. And I have to be honest, there was very like tangible things on there. Like I wanted a specific blue jacket. Like there was stuff on it, but there was also, I wanted to adopt a mini schnauzer. And we had Mr. Lister who lived with us for close to a couple decades. And it was buying a house with my husband. It was the wedding of my dreams. All of these things had come true. And I was going on a trip to Cancun with my sister. And when we bought our dream house, there was an account of escrow, and the exact amount of money was left in the escrow account when the house closed to fund my trip to Cancun. So like everything on that list had come to fruition, and it was so easy to say yes to all the things. It was like magic. So that is where I got the spark for manifestation. It was that piece of paper falling out of that Jack Canfield book. I still get goosebumps right now when I'm thinking about it, going, "Oh, what is this?" So that led me down the rabbit hole of like vision boards and stuff like that. But those two books were just a mind-blowing pivot in my life from where I was to where I am now.
This is great. So this list falls out, everything's come true in it, and the light bulb goes off for you of like, wow, I'm pretty powerful with this. What were your next steps then? Like, what were the following things that you started? You just mentioned vision boards. Like, did you go into vision boards because you had read it somewhere? Like, if you saw that that was magic, maybe what sparked you to go down that path?
Yeah, I honestly, if I'm remembering correctly, when that book fell out during the packing and I had that revelation, I sat down with the book and I just started rereading it. I paused packing. I was just like, wow, like that book felt magical to me at that moment. Like, who are we? And at that point, it was still, I didn't even really realize that it was the onus of me. I was creating the things. But it was just going back to that seed of getting clear on what you want and having the things play out. So by reading through that book, that is where I learned more about vision boards. And now I do one every single year, like clockwork. My kids do them now. And there's been times where by the end of the year, single thing on that vision board has been completed. And there are years when it's not. And then I just redo it for the next year. Some things, I think the more I expand into vision boards, the more bigger I allow myself to dream. So some of the goals on there are like lifetime goals now. And segue here from when I first started out creating those vision boards, there was lots of stuff on it. I'm finding the older I get and having a family, now there are lots of ways of being. I want a healthy lifestyle. I want lots of quality time and connections. So I'm finding that there's a shift to a way of being away from the stuff. Not that stuff doesn't still wind up on there, but it's just a neat evolution that I'm noticing over the years as my vision boards evolve.
Okay, so let's go back to throwing yourself a retirement party at age 34.
Yeah, so I did that. So we started from the Robert Kiyosaki book, that Rich Dad, Poor Dad. My husband, we got married after that Jack Canfield book. So we're newlyweds, and I was like, I want to try house hacking real estate. So essentially buying a house that has 2 living apartments in it. So they were houses with like an upstairs, downstairs, separate living suites. And so we started doing that one by one. And the funny thing is, I started doing that when I was still at that unfulfilling job. And remember how I said that job was just soul sucking and I felt drained at the end of the day? Well, once I decided that I was going to start house hacking real estate with Chris, the amount of energy that I had at the end of the day, we were buying properties, we were renovating them because we were still quite young and newlyweds. So we had to put a lot of our own sweat equity into these properties. And I had the energy and the drive to be able to do that. So we were slowly buying houses, living in them, renting out a unit, and then moving over to the next property, buying a house, renting out one unit, living in the other unit. And it was a little snowball building there. So that's when I found myself comfortable enough to say, you know what? I think it's time. Like, this is paying my bills. And for me to throw myself a retirement party and declare from this moment on, I am no longer getting a job anywhere. I am not working for someone else. I am going to be doing my own thing. I think we overlook this money piece and we assume that it has to come from a job. And I am set up enough for now from my rentals that I am just going to declare, and I'm going to throw myself this party. I'm going to invite my friends and family. My grandpa came. I'll still remember the look on his face, shaking his head at me like, you crazy kid, what are you doing? What do you mean you're throwing yourself a retirement party at this age? But by doing something bold like that, I couldn't go back. I couldn't go get another job after that. I had to keep going all in on me, keep having those rental properties, keep my tenants happy, keep providing them with nice places to live. And yeah, from that point on, and I'm an entrepreneur at heart, so I still go out and I make money. I just retired from the job world. And from 34, I'm turning 44 this year. So it's been a decade now. Yeah, that I would, and hopefully for the rest of my life, I threw myself that retirement party and walked away from the job world.
That is wonderful. And I love that you symbolically just did that with the party, because that is putting the stake on the ground and just saying, that's it, like there's no going back. How long did it take you? You said you were buying the properties, like how often? Like, can you walk us a little bit through that process?
Yeah, so we were able to buy in the span, I think it was 16 months. Well, we bought that first house together, and maybe it was 2 years from buying that first house together to making the leap where we decided we were going to be renting them out to other people. And then I think it went about an 18-month period, we went from living in just our house, only owning that property, to owning 3 properties where we were leapfrogging from one to the next. Yeah, so 18 months. And I do have to say too, from when I threw myself that retirement party, I went home that day and I sat in my backyard. He was out doing his own thing, and I cried. Like, I took that leap of faith. I threw myself that retirement party. And when I finished that job and went home, I was like, holy smokes, I have really ripped the Band-Aid off here. I have done this big, bold thing. And it honestly was terrifying. And it was terrifying. So I don't want to gloss over the fact that I did that thing and it was all sunshine and roses. Like, I had a moment of like almost not panic, but just of a holy smokes, I'm doing it. And then within a matter of minutes, that holy smokes fear shifted into this really empowering kind of new way of being. My confidence grew that day because I had to step into owning, this is who I am now, right? And step into that. So that fear kind of pushed me through into just the way I am today.
We're going to take a quick pause because I want to go deeper into this. Hi there, I have something really cool for you. I want to give you free access to my signature course called Manifesting Abundance, which typically sells for $997. You can check out all the details in the show notes. All you have to do to gain access is leave me a review on Apple Podcast, take a snapshot of it, and send it to help.thecouragetobe@gmail.com, and we'll get you set up with access to the course. You can also find other free goodies in the show notes. Go check them out. So this is fabulous. And I so appreciate you sharing that you broke down and cried, and that because the fears, obviously, you put the stake in the ground and the fears are coming through, but through faith and persistence, which there's another fabulous interview with John Carr. It's episode 75 on how he retired at 35, becoming financially free based off of the principles of Napoleon Hill. And the book Think and Grow Rich. I don't know if you've read that book too, Jenny. I have a whole series. If you're listening to this and you're going through the podcast and you see an asterisk in front of the number, that means that it's part of the series of Think and Grow Rich. But he purposely built that from the beginning, like he had an intention, like I'm going to become financially free. Whereas for you, it was the other way around. Like it's like, no, I'm declaring on who I am first, and then the having and the doing will fall after it. And I commend you for that, because it takes a lot of courage to, first put that stake on the ground, then go through all the fears that, and really feel them physically, with the tears coming down, because you know that you have just shed your skin of who you used to be and who you are now. So you said, and that's the moment that I became the person that I am now. And now it's 10 years later. How are you different?
Oh, I think I'm different now in the sense that I've always been kind of a shy introvert, just kind of doing my own thing. And I think now, 10 years later, I've found my voice. Like, I come across situations where I see people who are clearly hitting that wall like I did of, I hate this, and I'm showing up for this thing every day. And now I find it's so much easier for me to like poke at them a little bit and be like, why are you signing up for this every day? Like, you have a choice here. You get to decide. And sure, you might have put in the time or the money to get yourself to where you are. But I feel like anytime you get in life to a point where you feel like it is no longer working for you, no longer serving for you, you have to allow yourself the opportunity to pivot. You don't have to keep signing up for the same thing just because a previous version of yourself thought you should. Like and I teach that to my kids. I did think backwards there too. I had kids after I retired, right? I decided to start a family after I decided to say goodbye to the job world. So I feel like we have to allow ourselves to step into the version of life that feels good to us, the one that works for us, not the one that our mom thinks that we should have, or a friend, or even our spouse thinks we should have. We need to allow ourselves to step into the life that feels good to us. And I feel like me now, that's just what I'm so like, I'm just driven to be able to push that out to other people. So that's why I have the podcast. That's why my kids have vision boards on the back of their door. We just try to come from that place of expansion instead of, well, it's a scary world out there now, right? Like, it's not that it is a scary world, but it is a world with a lot going on out there that we feel like we don't have a lot of control over. So for us to be able to realize that, yes, there is stuff going on in this world, but to really step into the space of, we get to take control of our lives, we get to control our situation, our life, and really just to lean into that as people. I think that has really grown in me in the last 10 years.
I so appreciate you sharing this, because there's only so much you can control. But at the same time, for anyone that's listening, that could be like, well, that's easy for you to say because you don't know how hard it is for me, like I live paycheck to paycheck, or you don't know how hard it is. This is the only type of job I can get. You don't know how hard and so everyone is just seeing their current circumstances. What would you say to someone that's going through that would be the steps to trust and, be able to see these things manifest for them?
Yeah, I would start by taking a pause. Like, for whatever they're feeling like is impossible in their life right now, look at that word impossible. Put a space between I'm impossible, like literally put a pause there and take whatever's impossible for you and it turns it into I'm possible, and then create yourself a list. So if your current situation is I can't make money doing any other job than I'm doing now, change that to how can I make money doing something different now? And brain dump 100 different ideas. Don't stop till you hit 100. You're going to start coming up with some pretty weird things on that list that probably don't feel true, or things that you don't even want to do. Sure, you can go out and collect cans. That'll get you a few dollars, right? But that's probably not going to pay the bills. So start brain dumping. And if you get stuck there, switch hands. There's something about switching hands that ignites a different part of your brain that sometimes just sparks some different pieces within you. So brain dump and start seeing the possibilities. Find an accountability buddy or just a friend or a peer who you trust and say, hey, I'm feeling stuck in this situation. I need you to help me brain dump on this idea that I have, or this idea that I'm trying to get away from. And you're kind of creating your own little mastermind. And when you can get your head together with somebody else too, it's not like two people are together. Something magical happens when you have more than one person working together on one problem. Infinite possibilities can come up. So essentially, you need to get really clear about what you want. And just by having that clarity, like if you think back to that list I wrote in the book of what I wanted, just by having that clarity and planting that in my conscious mind, but also my subconscious mind, you are automatically going to be saying yes and no to the things that align with what you want, just by having that simple clarity. And if you can go for the thing that you want and hold it front of mind, like make yourself a vision board or something that you can see every day, that's really powerful too. But at first, it's just allowing yourself to see the possibility. Allow yourself to come back away from that wall that you are so close up to that you can't see anything else than your current reality. Step away from it and start seeing what else is possible to you. Money-making ideas are all around you, I promise. Like, you might not want to do them right away, but they are all around you once you start looking for them. And I think another thing too is, if it's money that is your big hang up, you have to start looking at, like, so many people think, oh, I just need to get another job, right? So you get like 2-3 jobs and you're running out of time. You literally can only take on so many jobs in your life where you run out of time because you need to eat and sleep realistically, right? So you have to learn how to not just trade your time for dollars. You have to learn how to teach in groups or do things that allow you to get paid where you're doing a one for many type task. Like books and royalties are a kind of example, or investments and dividends. So start educating yourself or learning about opportunities that you're not just trading your time for dollars. I don't know if that helped there, but essentially just back yourself away from the wall enough to see what else is around you.
Yes, these are great tips. Do you try to figure out the how all the time, like with these lists, of like, how can I make money? How can I make it, or have you found that sometimes the how is not that important and it's more in that clarity of that list?
Yeah, there's an ebb and flow for sure. There's an ebb and flow. Sometimes, and I know this from speaking for myself, I can get so caught up in the how that if it doesn't play out the way that I expect it to play out, I am fixated on that how, that one particular thing. So I have backed myself into a corner and I'm not seeing the other opportunities around there, right? So sometimes you have to hold on to the big vision of what you want. And if it is money, and just keep trusting that money opportunities are all around me, money opportunities are going to start showing up for me, maybe just even affirming that I am able to see the money opportunities around me, and just trust, and then start noticing what's showing up. So yeah, the how can back us into a corner too. So I think the how can bring us to the action, but honestly, in manifestation, holding the big vision of what you want, the how doesn't always show up right away. You just have to trust that you're going for the thing you want to go for, and the how starts playing out as you start taking action towards it.
Do you have some examples or stories of how the how just showed up randomly?
Well, for me, I'm thinking of, I really wanted a lake house. So it's a couple years ago, I was like, I really want a lake house. We saw one pop up in the summertime. We're like, that's perfect. Let's go to the bank, ask them for financing. And the bank's like, nope, sorry, you're jobless, right? On paper, you're an investor and we don't want to give you a loan. Like you feel scary to us. So I'm like, okay. So I honestly was like, oh, I'm a little crushed by that. Like I really want a lake house. So end of summer came. We're rolling into where I live in Canada. It gets really cold and snowy. And in the middle of winter, I was like, hey, wait a second. I know how to manifest. Like, why am I accepting what the bank said to me as stopping me from getting my lake property? So I'm like, oh, silly me. So I did what I do and I got really clear about what I wanted. So I made a list of all the things I would want my lake house to have. And then like criteria, like how close I would want it to be. Like I wanted it within a half-hour drive from my everyday home. I wanted at least 2 bedrooms. I wanted RV hookups so my sister and my parents could come stay with us. I wanted one of those little pedal boats that you can, like a 4-seater pedal boat that you could pedal around on the lake. And so I got really clear about what I wanted. And then I started Googling photos. I was like, I would love a water view out the kitchen window. Like I want to look out the kitchen window if I'm doing dishes or prepping meals and just see water. So I started making a little folder on my computer desktop. And then I'm like, this is what I want. Like, I want this. This is going to be my dream cabin or my lake house. And then you start getting those little action or those little inspirations of action steps you get. So I'm like, okay, I will go post something on Marketplace asking for seller financing because I know a bank's not going to offer it for me. So I described my criteria because I knew what I wanted, asking for seller financing. And I got no bites. So, but I was taking action, right? So I am showing the universe that this is the thing I want. I'm taking action towards it and trusting that I will get what I want. So that didn't work. And then it was like a fast moving series of events that happened. My dad, who didn't know that I had an ad posted, messaged me, hey, check out this cute little lake property out at a lake that my sister lives at. I didn't even know that they had little lake houses there. I thought they were all like year-long residences. And I was like, oh, wow, that's amazing. Messaged the seller immediately, got a showing for the next day, went out there. The lake is frozen solid. It is a winter wonderland. Like, this is not the time of year to be looking at a lake property, but I am. And the seller says, like, I have no idea what happened. Like, we just put the ad out yesterday. We tried to sell it in the summer. Nobody, like, we had 0 bites. Now today we have back-to-back showings all day and an offer coming in already. And I walked into this place. I got goosebumps over my entire body. I'm like, this is my lake house. This is it. Because you walk into the kitchen area, I turn, I just see this frozen lake out the window. I'm like, this is it. Like, how do I make this happen? So long story short, we walked out that door and my dad was like, hey, this is really cool. Why don't we see if mom would be on board to buy this thing with us, with you, like mom and I? And I was like, okay, like in my script that I had drafted out, they were going to just come and we wanted an RV space so that they could come spend as much time as they wanted there. So in my vision, he was already there and so was my mom. And there was another offer coming in that day. My mom wasn't with us. And I just have to let you know, my mom won't buy a shower curtain or a tea towel without multiple trips to the store. So in my head, we're driving back home. I'm like, how is she going to say yes to a lake house sight unseen when there's another offer coming in today, right? But she said yes. All of these things just started showing up as I held this big thing. And we ended up saying yes to this property. My parents had their half of the financing together. We said yes without knowing where we were going to get the money from. So we said yes and then had to go make all sorts of uncomfortable phone calls, but we got all the money that we needed. So like private lenders, people that we knew, calling our stockbrokers, our investment people to see what funds we had access to. But we ended up getting that lake house 7 days into the new year of the year that I had intended to go shopping for a lake house. 7 days. I was like, this is amazing. So yes, hold on to your big vision and trust that you can have it. And sometimes the pathways just start opening up so rapidly that it blows my mind. It blows my mind.
That is amazing. I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing that. And the speed of it too. You know, it's like, it's such a clear example of you not knowing the how, but just trusting and holding that vision. And as well as taking action, and having those uncomfortable conversations. Can you dive a little bit deeper into that? Because I think a lot of people stop themselves, like they would have stopped themselves at the first place of a no, meaning the lender saying like, oh, well, on paper, you're not employed, because when you're self-employed and you're an investor, I've been there, like I know that it's not that easy the banks won't lend you money, and so a lot of people would have talked themselves out of that right away. Like, oh, see, well, we can't do much more. Let's abandon the dream. But you kept on going and still holding the vision and even imagining more clear things like, oh, and it's going to have a view from the kitchen and my parents are going to get to come. So talk to me a little bit more about taking action when you're getting the green lights, because you did get the green light, like your dad, like, oh, well, maybe we invest with you too. And then you're like, your head goes into, yeah, but mom's not going to sign off on this. And then your mom signs off on it. And then you're like, but where are we going to get the money from? Like there's always, our brain's always trying to keep us safe. But I want to hear a little bit more for the listener, because if you're listening to this, I really want you to pay attention that it requires effort and getting uncomfortable and having those uncomfortable conversations, or trying out that, like, just not giving up, basically.
Yeah. And honestly, I almost gave up. So I'm glad you're asking this, because there's a very important part of that story where I did almost give up. And that was when the seller, when we're like, okay, we'd like to put in an offer too, we just have to like figure out how to get financing. And they said to us, oh, sorry, like the other offer is coming in subject free. Like it's a cash offer coming in. And we were like, oh, okay. I'm like, give me 10 minutes, please. Like before you call that other offer back and say yes, please give me 10 minutes. So I got off the phone and I was looking at my husband and I was like, this is crazy. Like, is this something we're going to agree to and then figure out how to come up with the money later? And this is December when we're doing all this. So we've got Christmas and stuff that's going on. It's not like I have a whole bunch of cash that I'm just wasn't planning on buying a lake house over Christmas. And he looked at me and he said, Jen, you asked for this. Like, this is everything on your list. I didn't say this, but it even came with one of those little pedal boats. Like, literally, like, it came with one of the pedal boats. And I was like, he's like, and it's at the lake that your sister lives at. And it's not a half hour away from home, it's 24 minutes away from home. Like, it is everything on your list, but better. And I knew he was right. Like I needed him to hold up the mirror to me and say, you are a manifester. This is what you're asking for. He's like, you always tell me that I just have to trust the process and hold what I want. Is this what you want? And from that moment, it was an instant yes. This is what I want. So that's when we put the offer in. And that's when pen and paper grabbed out, okay, now we have to come up with the money. And making those uncomfortable conversations was part of the process. I just had to keep holding on to, I need to phone this person and ask them for multiple 5 figures at a time, trusting that it's going to bring me this vision of what I want. And it did. So every hard conversation, I had to trust, hold my vision, take a deep breath, get purple in the face as I'm making the call, right? Because it wasn't uncomfortable. And it's not like I was putting people in an uncomfortable spot. I was calling people that I knew had the resources, and we were arranging terms that were win-win for both parties. But yeah, it wasn't uncomfortable, but my uncomfortableness was on the lower end of the dream that I wanted. I could have just held myself in that space of being uncomfortable and hid, because as human beings, that's easier. It's easier just to hide. It's easier to say, oh no, you go ahead. Those other people can just have it. And talk about manifestation here too. When we made that decision to call the seller back, it was a husband-wife couple. They took a deep breath and they said, you know what? Your offer is lower. We're going with you. Sorry, it makes me emotional thinking about it still. We're going with you because we know this is for you. Like, the synchronicities that showed up in that was just mind-blowing. We went all in on it. And yeah, now we have a cute little lake property to hang out with our kids. And it's everything I could have dreamed of.
And kudos to you, Jenni, for having the courage. And that's why I think there's a place for the how and another place for the, and those lists of like, well, how can we get the money? Like that was, like, okay, we made a decision. Now let's put pen to paper. Who can we call? And we're just going to have to take action and make it uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable. But at the other side of that, there's the reward. I always say the universe favors the brave, right? And you were brave and had the courage to just jump in with that and do it. And it just, yeah, kudos to you for your courage with that. Because when you really want something, you're going to have to sacrifice, whether it's uncomfortable conversations, money, time, all these different things. So thank you for sharing that. Where can people find you?
I would say the best place is just my podcast, the Manifestation and Money podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. You can find me on those places.
Thank you. And I love leaving the listeners with some wisdom from you, which is to this question: what can our listeners do in order to live a life with more courage?
Oh man, just trust that internal compass of yours is telling you exactly what you need to do. Even if right now it's just that spark of you feeling called or pulled towards something, trust that and allow yourself to lean into that and know that the universe is supporting you. You just have to say yes and keep taking action towards that thing.
Oh, this is so great. We should do other interviews with manifestation powers, but I want to have you again with the episode on how to create a lifestyle that's in congruency with us. How can we create that lifestyle for ourselves and manifest more? So thank you so much for being with us, Jenni. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, Tania.
Hi there. I have something really cool for you. I want to give you free access to my signature course called Manifesting Abundance, which typically sells for $997. You can check out all the details in the show notes, and all you have to do to gain access is leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, take a snapshot of it, and send it to help.thecouragetobee@gmail.com, and we'll get you set up with access to the course.